International Amateur Radio Union, and also Mr. Faisal Al-Ajmi, Vice President of the same union, and also the Kuwaiti Amateur Radio Society President. Thank you very much for being with us, and a very good morning to you first.
Good morning to you, gentlemen, and my question is for you, Mr. Blondeel. What do you do in your amateur radio that would come to an interest so that I could be able to join you or be able to listen to you?
Our activity has many aspects, and many amateurs use it in a different way. Mm-hmm. There are amateurs who just want to communicate with each other. But we have also amateurs with a technical interest, and they build a piece of equipment, use their amateur radio license to see if it works, and when it works, they put it away, start building something new, and starting all over. We have others who use it for sports purposes. They go in the woods, try to find hidden transmitters, and the one who is the fastest is the champion. We have other peoples who build satellites and make radio equipment for satellites, launch the satellite, communicate with that satellite. Whatever you want, it is possible. What I like to do personally is walking and taking a small radio with me and try to make contacts with limited power, solar power on top of a mountain. And another thing what I like about amateur radio is competitions. Almost every weekend we have a competition, and people enter in that competition, and the one who makes the most contacts or who makes the best distances, he's the champion of the weekend. It's fairly innocent, but that's how we spend our free time.
Yeah. Mr. Ajmi, to what extent do you think that amateur radios or the users of, or the amateurs of radio this way are going to increase, I mean, the popularity of this issue?
Yeah, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Egypt on your celebration of the October victory.
Thank you, sir.
I'm congratulating Egypt and also the Arab nation. And in this answering this question, the amateur radio is something unique. We are getting the students from the universities, especially from the science background, the engineers, and all this is kind of science. And they understand what we are talking about, electronics and all this stuff.
To what extent it's popular in your case in Kuwait, for instance?
Of course, it's more popular in Europe than in our area here, and we are doing our best to interact with the authorities in the Ministry of Communications and even the universities to produce ourselves, to get more people
then you are propagating to yourselves, not only in Kuwait, but in other Arab regions?
Yes.
In other Arab countries?
This is the main reason why we are here in Egypt, to give a push to the Egypt Amateur Radio Society in this field.
Right. Mr. Blondeel, to me it looks like somehow a chat room on the social internet, so that if you mention the name of some person, it's not only a conversation between two, other people could join you also. So the people who might be listening or observing you holding a communication with another person, so could they be able to also join you and share in that conversation, maybe sharing your interest? And could this be an opportunity for a number of people from different parts of the world to be able to hold contacts and get to know each other and share maybe the similar hobbies and interests and things like that?
Well, your colleague started this interview with, this must be something new for most of our audience. Amateur radio already exists for more than 100 years. And we have been at the basis of several things that you just mentioned. We are the oldest chat room that is available. We actually invented it. It has been developed by others, of course. But yes, we were the first chat room where people who were able to build their own radio, were able to communicate with each other. And that's how it started. And Faisal just talked about growing numbers. In Europe, we are unfortunately over the top of our numbers. In the 80s, communication by amateur radio was the only way to communicate, to mass communicate. Telephone was too expensive and internet was not available. And the only thing you had was amateur radio. Now we have internet adding to that, and those who were only dealing with communications, they stepped out. But what we see in other parts of the world, Africa, the Arab world, and China in particular, is that the number of amateurs is growing. And that is because there is more...
Is it more suitable to some countries rather than the other according to their nature, according to the number of people who would go to the woods or the mountain, as you said? And I think whenever you are saying so, this amateur radio fans were rescued, or it may help in rescue operations in special occasions.
Yes, well, now you come to emergency communications, and I see a role for amateur radio in emergency communications, and we have proven that in the past. Our strong point is that we are already at the place where the emergency could happen. And because of the training we had, we are very good improvisers. If there is no electricity, we will find something to make it work. We will use batteries, or we will use our solar cells. And we practice on a day-to-day basis in procedures. When we open our communications, there is a certain rule to do that. We close our communications. In between, we are free. There is free format. But for emergency communications, it is very important that you know where your message comes from, where it goes to, who is the originator. And we also have a format set up for this is what we want, this is what we need, this is where we need it, and the time we need it. So, yes, there is a role for amateur radio in emergency communications, but we don't want to compete with the authorities, and we are complementary. Another strong asset is that we have not much bureaucracy. If a government agency wants to send a rescue team, they need permission, and this takes, well, 24 hours when they are fast, but the experience learns that it takes 48 hours for a government agency to deploy. And amateurs have no rules. They can just go there.
On the spot.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Al-Ajmi, you have, as an Arab, you have observed in the past 3 years how the social internet, I mean, apart from the amateur radio, have become very popular and have been able to spark ideas and revolutions and to collect people together from very far and different parts of the world. But the only thing that remains a conflict, which is the language. Language become a barrier. So in your case, as people who are very interested in what you're doing and doing this project under the name of amateur radio, do you find language come as a barrier, and how do you try to overcome it while you try to communicate with other people and post, for example, jokes? Because, you know, culture becomes different from the east to the west, and, you know, stuff like that. Photos and maybe ideas and information. How do you try, you overcome that?
In fact, the main language is English. And as you said, it may be a barrier for some cultures, especially in our area. But we are, you know, the development of teaching and education. I think we are passing this kind of barrier, and as I mentioned before, that we are spotting in the universities student. So most of them they don't have a problem with this languages stuff.
Speaking about amateur radio, why, whenever, as Dina mentioned, internet and social networks are really playing a massive role into our society, especially the Arab world, or I may say the Arab Spring societies. Let me here speak a little bit about security. How much or to what extent do you need licenses, or you are to use the amateur radio without harming the national security of any place or any country? Don't you think that this thing may be very much troubling or perplexing here?
There is a difference in understanding between countries in Western Europe and countries in the Arab world.
Okay.
But what I see is that 40 years ago, when I started as a radio amateur, we were just as bad as the Arab world is now. We did not trust radio amateurs, and you needed a stamp of good behavior before you got your amateur license. That is over now, and I trust it will be over in this area in 10 or 15 years.
Hopefully.
My first time in Egypt was in 2005, and I noticed a real difference between 2005 and 2014.
How?
When you are at the street, it's the atmosphere is more relaxed than in 2005. It's hard to give an exact description, but I notice a difference, and I noticed that same difference.
In few words, difference to the better?
Yes, I think it is better.
According to the way people are behaving, or to...
They are happier. And I also see that people are wealthier than 10 years ago. No, look at the cars in the street. They are newer than well, of course, newer than 10 years ago. But then you had a lot of old cars in
well, actually, I do agree with you on that part of happier, because Egyptians have never been happier and have never been more proud of their identity than today.
And that is another thing
what they have achieved.
What I like about our activity is to learn about other cultures. And of course, the culture is different. But I am not in the Netherlands here. I'm in Egypt, and I have to adapt to the Egyptian culture.
What when anyone comes to you and asks you why you prefer to be an amateur radio fan or to start amateur radio, why you don't resort to Facebook or to the messengers or to things which we all know about?
I like to do things myself without the help of an operator. And when I go on my mountain, there is no internet on that mountain. And of course at home I do the same. But in the 80s when I started, there was no internet. I had to do this myself, and I had to solder my own equipment and get out without any help. And that is what we call the magic of amateur radio. You can do things yourself.
Right, it's very interesting, because I didn't get the way, I'm sure that most of the viewers who are, or some of the viewers who are watching us right now, didn't exactly get how is amateur radio different from other social media, types of social media that my colleague mentioned, Nermeen. Like if you get on the top of the mountain, how would it be different? I mean, you mean the networks? How do you get a network, or how do you communicate? Because if I like to join and you become very popular people and I would like to join you, so if there is no network, then how can I
get there is a network of 3 million radio amateurs worldwide.
Really? If you could explain to us.
The only thing you need to do is you need to get a license. And that requires some technical background. And we have various levels. We have an entry-level license, can be obtained in a long weekend.
Obtained from?
Normally from your authorities, in case of Egypt, the National Telecommunications Regulatory Authority. You have to pass a test. And in some countries it's still required to get your stamp from your security people, and I fear that is still the case in Egypt. But okay, we have good Egyptians.
Is it the same in Kuwait?
Yes, it's the same.
And once you pass that entry-level test with limited possibilities, you will do later. You will do more training and have your full license test, and you can use all possibilities that we have.
Regarding
Sure,
the matter that you asked about, the security matter before, regarding that time when that Kuwaiti crisis happened, our good friend Abdul Jabbar Ma'rafi, he was sending the messages from inside Kuwait. He's amateur radio, he was very well known, and he was sending the messages from the families inside Kuwait and send it outside, where they were in Egypt, they were in United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and even in Europe, and he was telling the people that the families they are okay and everything is fine.
It was a good mean of communication.
That was very brave from him.
Right, but if you could tell me also, Mr. Al-Ajmi, I'm very curious, just as someone who is introduced as a newly, someone who would like to join you, what type of posts or what type of communication do you hold between you people? Is it anything it's unlimited, or I'm limited or restricted to certain measures of communication? Do you post news like the social media?
We can talk.
Do you post ideas? Do you post? What about the hate speech? And do you ban people when they don't behave well?
There are three main topics we cannot talk about.
Ethical code?
Yes, ethical code, religion, religious matter, and even commercial thing. I cannot trading in this, telling about my brands or this stuff. We can talk in everything, but except religious matter and commercial, because it's, it make...
Then you do have an ethical code, and this is...
It's even better than that. We have international radio regulations set up by the International Telecommunications Union, and one article is dedicated to amateur radio, and it tells what amateur radio is and what it can do. And as Faisal just mentioned, we cannot gain any financial interest of our activities.
No financial interest?
No. It's, we cannot do that.
Hope you don't change your mind in the near future. Well, Mr. Hans Blondeel, President of the International Amateur Radio Union, and Mr. Faisal Al-Ajmi, Vice President of the International Amateur Radio Union and the Kuwaiti Amateur Radio Society, would like to thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the breakfast show. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By this, we come to the end of this very special episode of the Breakfast Show. On behalf of my dear colleague Dina Hussein, myself, Nermeen Abdurrahman, many thanks for watching. Stay tuned only on Nile TV International. And it's goodbye for now.